Welcome back. For all the smoke about reported meetings between various Trump campaign aides and Russian government officials, there was no actual evidence of collusion. That's what Trump supporters argued for the last 6 months, and they had a point, right, Christian?
Absolutely.
And all that changed this week with the revelation contained in emails released by Donald Trump Jr., the president's son, agreed to meet with what he was told was a Russian government lawyer, and we now know a former Russian intelligence officer was there too, for the stated purpose, quote, to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia. Quote, part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, to which the younger Trump replied, quote, love it. Joining us for analysis of it all is Mitch Perry, a reporter for FloridaPolitics.com and St. Peter's blog, Christian Ziegler, Republican State Committee man for Sarasota County, and Kevin Griffith, Vice Chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party. And Christian, obviously, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Because the defense, first and foremost, for the last 6 months or so, has, for all the talk about these meetings, there was no actual evidence of collusion. Now, in the very least, it shows that when presented with the opportunity to get official Russian documents, the Trump campaign, Donald Jr., jumped at the opportunity.
I think this shows the American public exactly what goes on in campaigns, which is opposition research. And when people offer up information, you listen, you take it. If it's serious, if it's something that may be classified or spies are involved or whatever, then maybe they go to the federal government. But you would be crazy in a presidential campaign to not accept opposition research on your campaign. And also, put this in context. This is before any discussion about Russia. You know, it's difficult now because the Democrats have like this obsession with Russia to take a step back and remember the days when we weren't talking about Russia. But that's when this occurred. And basically, he's in a campaign. They're trying to win a campaign. They were presented with an opportunity to understand more about what's going on with Hillary Clinton, and they accepted it. And that's what happened. And who knows what happened in that meeting? You weren't in there, Alan. They're still trying to figure it out. I'm sure speculation is going to lead to headlines because that's kind of how the news is run now. But no one knows really what happened.
Kevin, you were involved in campaigns and you're an attorney. You know, we have all dealt with opposition research, but anything like this in terms of coming from the country that is considered our #1 adversary in the world?
Well, a couple things. One, Christopher Wray, who was just nominated to be the FBI director, said in his testimony that if something like this happened, the FBI would want to know. Secondly, in 2000, when Al Gore received George Bush's debate prep manual before the debate, they turned that over directly to the FBI. The problem here is not the Democrats anymore for the Republicans. It's Representative Trey Gowdy, some of the other Republicans that have been mentioned, Charles Krauthammer. They are now saying this is collusion.
And in fact, I want to quote Charles Krauthammer, which is one of the foremost conservative columnists and writers in the country. He says that this was bungled collusion. This was amateurish collusion. This was Keystone Cops collusion, but it doesn't change the fact that it was attempted collusion, and it undoes the White House story completely.
Yeah, and you look at this, and again, you're talking about a meeting with this Russian, lawyer and a couple other people that were involved. I mean, when you start diving into it, I mean, there was a picture of her with an Obama official. She didn't have a visa in the country. Somehow the DOJ gave her a pass, let her in the country. So when you start really looking into it, I think there's a lot of questions that are going unanswered, and everything's speculation right now. But what I don't remember, Alan, is this show really diving into when Hillary Clinton's emails were missing, when her phone was getting destroyed, her server hasn't been tapped into.
I believe that was investigated, Christian, and I think the conclusion of the FBI...
They have never had access to her server. They have never had access. They've never found those emails. So nothing has really been done. They never found it, but no one dove into it in the press. Didn't dive into all the speculation night after night after night. That's all you guys talk about. And it's all based on speculation, but no one's done that for Hillary Clinton, and now they're doing it for Trump.
Mitch, I want to get you in here.
Yeah. Well, I would say Christian is right in the respect that there's still a lot we don't know about this. I mean, this new information came out of this new person today, which, if nothing else, makes Don Jr. just look bad and the other folks involved because he hasn't been all forthcoming. And so that's where people will start to think the worst. And that's what I think Donald Trump's problem has been with Russia all along since he was elected. In many ways, you're right, Christian. I think there's been an obsession about this. Cable news networks have gone hog wild on this, but there's always been some trails out there. I mean, he fires James Comey. You know, why did he do that? I mean, he's just done some things that has not been friends to himself about this. But in terms of this Russian situation, you mentioned Charles Krauthammer, and he's a very influential commentator. There's been other ones, John Podhoretz, the New York Post, Kevin French from National Review, who have also said, this is empirical evidence. This is a little different this week. And so we've gone to a different part of this saga.
Right, we are just getting started, and we will pick up our analysis right after we check the weather. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we are discussing the week in Washington, from new details about Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with a Russian attorney to President Trump's visit to France and the new GOP health care bill. Our guests tonight are political reporter Mitch Perry, Republican State Committee man Christian Ziegler, and Vice Chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party, Kevin Griffith. And Mitch, let me start with you, because those of us who are interested in politics are following what's happening with this Russia thing all the time. You are out there covering politics from state, local, county, whatever. Are people talking about this at other events unrelated to?
Yeah, I mean, Democrats care a lot about this. Republicans, not so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm covering a lot of local politics these days, so, you know, it's not going to be an emphasis there. But I think that overall in the zeitgeist, you know, it is still, Democrats really are focused on Donald Trump. Donald Trump it was a traumatic thing for Democrats, him getting elected. And so they really, you know, this has been something that's been seized upon for a while. I mean, well, I know we're going to get to health care in a minute, but I think those are things that Democrats and people, everybody else doesn't really care about too, more than even Russia. The media is, I think it's great for the ratings, you know, basically to keep up with this stuff, and everybody likes talking about it. So,
well,
yeah.
let me segue here, because Harvard just did an interesting poll in terms of, and their conclusions are, Republicans should be worried about the midterms, but not necessarily because of what you think is on the agenda. Right now, people are most concerned about Trump's efforts to protect the country from terrorism, 39%. His Obamacare replacement, 37%. Proposed budget, 34%. And that they speculate those are the things that Republicans have to worry about most. And are those the things that that Democrats are coming up with alternatives for?
Well, two points first, Alan. The first is on the issue of the whole Trump inclusion. You know, regardless of political party, I think Christian raised something about, you know, Hillary Clinton's side. I don't care what political party you are. If you are colluding with foreign national to get elected, you should be investigated. It doesn't matter political party. But secondly, the place the Democrats win is on health care, because we're right on health care. And we were talking just moments ago about the Democrats and Republicans coming together on a health care bill. I think if that happened, both parties would benefit across the country. I don't think it may not happen, but I think it would help.
I agree with Kevin. If we could come together and just repeal that Obamacare, I think it'd be
well,
great
you know,
for America, and Americans would love it.
If Mitch McConnell, if they can't get it together, and Mitch McConnell has said, I may have to actually work with the Democrats. It may actually come to that, Kevin, because if there's no place to go with this Republican bill, too many senators won't allow it to go through.
Here is the thing about that. Another new survey is out today by SurveyMonkey, which is a legitimate polling service that was around during the campaigns, and it finds 14% of Trump supporters now fear that the Senate health care bill will make them worse off.
Look, Alan, I mean, what we're talking about here is how people feel about issues and what's going to happen in the midterms. And I'll tell you, I mean, while the media and the Democrats are completely, they have this just fetish with Russia and talking about Russia every single night, what Trump has done is, like the last June jobs report, we were expecting 179,000. Hold on, Alan.
Wait. I asked you about the Senate GOP bill.
Alan, hold on.
Hold on.
Because I want to talk about the point that you had.
All right,
about
Christian,
the midterms.
hold on one second. This survey goes on to say those supporters are the most vulnerable part of Trump's coalition. They have lost faith in Trump's promise that he would replace Obamacare with something much better.
But here's the point. Trump, 220,000 jobs added last month. Expected 179. Jobs are up. A lot more than expected.
What kind of
you
jobs
talk
are
about
those,
the wall?
Christian?
They're mining jobs. There's 8,000 mining jobs in there. Private sector jobs, I think, were 180,000 of the 220.
What about the wall?
The wall. There's 1.6.
a transparent wall.
But 1.6 billion was allocated by the House recently to start building the wall. Healthcare, they're working on repeal. women's entrepreneurship. They're addressing issues behind the scenes that you guys aren't covering that Americans care about. When you start talking about repealing health care, look, they're still in the process. It's making sausage. It's ugly. They're still working it through. Hopefully it gets done. I personally think the entire bill should be repealed, but that's another debate.
This is huge, though. Okay, let's talk about healthcare, because this is the biggest thing going on in the country in terms of policy, because everybody cares about it, and we will have to wait and see about this. It doesn't look good in terms of, like I said a moment ago, though, Mitch McConnell may be forced to actually work with Democrats, which may be the best thing. Democrats have consistently said, don't repeal ACA, let's work and fix it. Republicans, you know, it's interesting. This is where you see Republican versus Republican, Christian, as you know, is that some people like Senator from West Virginia and Ohio, they you know, Medicaid is a really big deal here. Like we have an interesting, Marco Rubio has talked about this. He's on the same page with Kathy Castor, because we're not a Medicaid expansion state, and so we could be locked in a worse situation than a lot of other states. And he said that he's happy with the way this bill has been changed around to help forward a little bit. So this is really big, and we don't know where it's ending now, but we're going to know pretty soon, in the next month or so, right?
And the governor mentioned that issue as well. I mean, what we have is the Democrats under Obama, they jammed this bill through. They just jammed it through. I mean, you have.
But it still took over a year. You're talking about jamming.
Hold on, let me finish my point. But they jammed it through, and now we're going piece by piece because it has been a failure, and it is difficult to address because there's so many parts to it.
I do remember 60 votes at that point. Right. Talk about jamming through. The Republicans are trying to pass this bill with 50. There's a big difference. That's 10 votes in the Senate.
Well, let me bring up two issues here. Number one, when they were debating and working on Obamacare, I do remember something over like 100 hearings from various committees, and there have not been any involving this.
You have the speaker, Alan, that you're not holding accountable, that says we have to pass it before we can see what's in it. I mean, that's crazy.
But I can't help get past the fact that you can do this without a single Democratic vote. You don't need a single vote to pass a Republican health care bill.
But that's what I'm saying is they jammed this bill through. They had a lot of stuff packed in there, and there's a lot of difficult issues that you have to address. Pre-existing injury, that's a whole debate on its own. My personal belief, repeal the entire bill, go piece by piece, debate and pass piece by piece. That's my personal belief, because it is such a big thing.
You know, Kevin, David Jolly was here a couple of weeks ago, who said that this is the golden opportunity for Democrats to come up with an alternative. And if the party was smart, they would do that. And I'm still waiting to hear where the Democrats' alternative is.
Well, I think the Democrats are willing to fix the parts of the ACA that aren't working. And it is true that there are parts of the bill that need improvement. But pre-existing conditions, very popular when polled across the country. Letting your child stay on your health insurance until they're 26, very popular. Keep the popular parts and work on those that aren't working. I think both sides can come across. That's what the people at home want.
Again, we're not going to, that is what we may come to. We're not there yet, though. This Ted Cruz amendment would actually kind of hurt folks. It would kind of take away the whole idea of pre-existing conditions, that you could always be protected by that. So, you know, they're trying to appease the far right and the moderate right, and it's a problem. And again, I don't know how it's going to, I don't think any of us know how it's going to shape out, but it could, I think this comes back to the Trump voters and the people that Christian knows and supports, that if it's, you know, Trump, you know, shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue, not going to hurt them in the base, but if they don't repeal the ACA, what do you think? I mean,
I think they need to take action on that. I mean, there's always that, just let it fail on its own. But I think voters are expecting, I think voters are expecting action on Obamacare, and they want Obamacare repealed. And when you look at every Republican that's run for office in the Senate, they've all said, let's repeal Obamacare.
People don't want Obamacare repealed. They want a health care system in the United States that works.
But Americans and businesses do not want to be penalized.
Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, plus what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic, a deal for the Lakewood Ranch Premier Sports Campus. So stay with us. The drip of information related to ties between the Trump campaign and Russia continues. What should we make of the latest developments, and will Republicans in the Senate get the support they need for their latest health care bill? Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Mitch, I want to start with you, because during after the first congressional session near the beginning of the year, a lot of members of Congress, including Vern Buchanan, Gus Bilirakis, they held town hall meetings. They were well attended, and let's say, you know, there was a lot of energy there. But you don't hear about any of these town hall meetings this time around, and I'm wondering if you get any sense why.
You know, it's a good question. I don't know. You're right. There hasn't been any really in the 4th of July break. Very few around the country. Very high publicized ones in the spring. We know the one that Buchanan had here had tremendous attention. I think the one that Gus Billeracus held 3. He got a lot of press, good press about that. But he also voted straight down the Republican line on that. So, you know, in a way, I think these things are a little overrated. I mean, they're good for democracy. Certainly, everybody gets to have their voice out there. But you know, locally anyway, there's not been one legislator who voted a different way than we thought he or she would. Nationally, you have seen some more, you know, pushback on more. You know, the thing is anybody going to lose in the Tampa Bay area, the Republican, you know, or the congressional district, you know, Democrat or Republican? Probably not. You know, I know the DCCC is thinking about coming in here to Sarasota. A lot of people kind of think that's kind of outrageous. That's not really going to happen here. So going back to your point, though, about town hall, it's the dog days of summer. You know, I think that I'm cynical about them myself, Alan, because I see that they really didn't matter at all in terms of what the public was and where these Congress people were.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I'm not going to ask you about the local congressional district, but I will point out that Marco Rubio no longer has an office anywhere in this part of the state. They were kicked. He was kicked out of his Tampa offices because the landlord didn't like the protests that regularly were there. So in terms of Democrats, Republicans, citizens of our part of the state, they have no way to actually meet with their Senator Rubio or his staff in our area.
Well, no, they're actually meeting with individuals. They just have to meet them at Starbucks. And the same thing actually happened in Jacksonville. Why? It's probably the same reason why you don't see a lot of town halls, because you have members of the left, their entire goal, their entire focus is to obstruct. And the way they're doing that is through their various tactics that are successful, but they do publicity stunts. They're just crazy. They're over the top. And that's what they did outside his office. The landlord had enough, kicked him out, so he's still looking for office space. But it's definitely not Marco Rubio not having an office because he doesn't want to be accessible. It's just that he's in transition right now.
Yeah, it's called democracy, and I remember during the Tea Party days that
it's fine, but that explains why he doesn't have an office. I can tell you this,
our people in Sarasota County and Manatee County are very energized. The indivisible groups, which I think we touched on in the past, as well as Action Together Suncoast, which is the women's group that put on the march, they remain active and organized. And we are going to have probably a Democratic primary in that congressional district against Vern Buchanan. But there are going to be, Vern's going to have to work.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about last night's topic. A deal for Manatee County to take over the premier sports campus in Lakewood Ranch. The developer Schroeder Manatee Ranch is offering the 127-acre property to the county for a fraction of the estimated value. As part of the deal, the county would expand operations at the park and create an aquatic center. And here's what some of you are saying about the proposed deal. Jim Jackson writes, "It is not the county's jurisdiction to run Premier. Their job is to run our county efficiently." Ron Quinn simply writes, "And the catch?" And Raymond Kuyeski responds, "That's right. They are not just doing this out of the kindness of their heart. There has to be something in it for them." Well, if you'd like to join the conversation about tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions. They're on demand on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to all our guests for being here tonight. Mitch Perry is a political reporter for FloridaPolitics.com and St. Petersburg. Christian Ziegler is a Republican state committee man for Sarasota County, and Kevin Griffith is the vice chair of the Sarasota County Democratic Party.